I really wanted to encapsulate all of the experiences that I have had to give people tools, right? And to remind them of their power and the ability to create the reality they want for their life, for their teams, for their country.
My name is Linda Lorelle, and I'm asking you to have the courage to listen with an open mind to all of our voices, because our voices matter. Hi, everybody. It's Linda Lorelle, and this is Our Voices Matter. I'm so glad that you joined us today. I want to begin this conversation with a quote, and here it is. What I want for myself and for all of us is to focus on what we are fighting for, not just what we are fighting against. Can we learn to turn to each other instead of turning on each other? We must reach for a higher goal, more worthy of our birthright. We must figure out a way to be different together. We should be indivisible. And that is the name of the book, Indivisible. Its author is Denise Hamilton. Denise is the CEO of Watch Her Work, which is a digital learning platform. She is a nationally recognized workplace culture and DEI expert who has consulted with and presented to dozens of Fortune 500 companies, including GE, Apple, IBM, Shell, BP, Meta, and many more. She is regularly featured by the Harvard Business Review. She's been featured on Morning Joe, Fox, Bloomberg, Strategy and Business, and Newsweek. She is also a regular contributor to the MIT Sloan Management Review. Denise is a return guest here on Our Voices Matter. I interviewed her, I believe, during the first season of our podcast, some 4 or 5 years ago now. She lives here in Houston. She's a dear friend and someone whose voice we need at this time in our world. I cannot wait for you to listen to this conversation. Here now, Denise Hamilton. Denise Hamilton, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast to talk about your amazing new book, Indivisible. How are you, my friend?
I am so good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. I could not wait. So, okay, I'm going to get right to it. People, here's the book. It's called Indivisible, How to Forge Our Differences into a Stronger Future. Of course, you can get it online anywhere. I urge you to get the actual hard copy because then you can do what I did, which is underline, dog ear, highlight, write notes in the margin, because it's one of those kind of books. Denise, tell people why you wrote this book.
I just believe we can do better. You know, it really is a simple answer, but I just think we can do better. I think we kind of have lost the plot. I believe that it is really important to have an aspirational goal, something you're working towards, not just something you're working to avoid, right? Something you're trying to create. And it's really important that that reality is a shared reality, that we all kind of are rowing the boat in the same direction. And I think there's a lot of mythology, a lot of misunderstanding around how we do this, what's successful, what matters and what doesn't matter. And I really wanted to encapsulate all of the experiences that I have had to give people tools, right? And to remind them of their power and the ability to create the reality they want for their life, for their teams, for their country.
One of the things that I love about the book. So first, let me just say that, you know, in your work that you do with All Hands as a consultant, working with these top companies all over the world, helping them achieve their goals through understanding how their teams work and making their teams work better. So I know that's what you do in your professional life, but so much of this book is applicable not only to leaders in the workplace or people who are part of teams, which is all of us, right, in some form or fashion, but it's also applicable to us as human beings who live on this planet and have to interact with each other and how we do that. And another one of the things that I love about this book is how you weave in the stories to make your point. So I guess talk to me a little bit about the approach that you took when trying to get your message across.
Oh, yes. So very intentional, right? I think first I put myself in the stories. I literally start out with my story of underestimating the challenge of being actually authentically inclusive, right? I start with myself. I think very often, people position themselves as experts, as authorities, and there's no expert human, right? Like we're all struggling. We're all trying to do the best we can. And so, I think that sometimes these situations can be so emotionally charged that you're talking past each other. You're not even really able to get to the principles that are at work. So that's why I very intentionally used stories that were a degree removed. They weren't current events. It's not a political book, right? It's an idea of like, what is the guiding principle that you're going to use as you move through your life? And here are these little examples to help you to flesh them out. It's very Jesus-y, I think, in that, it's like you read the Good Samaritan and you have to decide, who are you in the story? Are you the guy that crosses the street? Or are you the guy that stops and helps the injured person? And I don't tell you who to be. You get to choose who you are and place yourself in the different stories and figure out what that guiding principle is. And then what are you going to do with that guiding principle?
I love that you said that you made the point that this is not a political book, because it's not. The title, Indivisible, is from Indivisible, the Pledge of Allegiance, correct? So I'm going to let you talk about that in a second. But the point that I want to make is that in reading the stories and the way that you connect them to your personal experience and to the experience of others, that the stories that you're sharing, and you've changed the names, of course. So you're not clearly identifying anyone, but the stories are all real. And so often I will be reading an excerpt and I can see how it applies in a political sense. I can see how it applies in a workplace sense. I can see how it applies in a familial sense. I mean, the concepts are the same. And like you said, you get to choose how you show up in that story and in that situation. And I think that's part of the brilliance of the way you've presented this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want me to tell them what to do. I can't tell you how many people ask me for a checklist. Tell me what I can't say. Tell me what I shouldn't do. Tell me, I can't touch a Black woman's hair. I can't, mispronounce somebody's name. They want like this list of things to do or not do. And that's totally missing the point. The point is treat people with respect. Listen to them, pay attention to what they value. You want respect for yourself, afford that to other people. It's not about the checklist. And so what I've tried to do is pull us all back to the principle, to the bare bones. What is the idea at work here? And how am I employing it? So a book like this is very easy for it to be preachy. I hope it doesn't come across as preachy because I don't really tell you what to do. I just kind of say, these are the things I've observed. These are some lessons that I've learned, and you can take it or leave it. And I think that's been a really helpful approach for people. It's really been interesting. I've done a lot of podcast interviews at this point, and I kind of thought everyone's going to ask me the same questions. Right? It's kind of a little tour and everybody's going to ask you the same questions. Every single one has been different. Really? Every single one. And I think it's because people see themselves in this story or they see themselves in that story. And that's how you have to teach. That's how I have to do it in my actual work. I may say something to you, and it's like name that tune. I can say it in 2 notes and you know exactly what I'm talking about. But somebody else may need 5 notes, to get the point. And so trying to say things in different ways, with different examples, with different ideas. There's a concept I have in the book called swap the nouns.
I love
it.
Right?
When in doubt.
Okay, give us an example. Give us an example of swap the nouns.
Oh, I remember when Ahmaud Arbery was murdered, right? And listening to the story of this young man just jogging in the middle of the day, and 2 people just deputizing themselves, terrorizing him, driving in a pickup truck and shooting him, killing him, right? And first of all, the story was buried for months. But as more details came out, his body laid in the streets for hours. And so when I think about that story, I swapped the nouns. Can I imagine a beautiful, young, blonde, blue-eyed woman going for a jog on her lunch break, 2 black men rolling up in a truck and shooting her, and her body laying in the street for hours? Linda, I can't even imagine it. It's not even something that would ever, ever, ever happen. And if you can say that, right? If you can say that, then you have to be honest that there's a problem and there's work that has to be done, right? So I don't have to preach at you. I don't have to yell at you. I don't have to argue with you. If you swap the nouns and you legitimately think that if the nouns were different, this situation would play out exactly the same, then you can leave it the same. Right. But if the answer is it's not the same, then you got to do something to change it. And you have to be a part of that change. And we can all do that. We can all do that in our lives. Just swap the nouns. Is there a situation where this behavior would be acceptable? I coach a lot of executive women and I speak to a lot of women's groups. And another place that this is very interesting to me is catcalling. A woman is walking down the street and you feel like you can say, hey, baby, and oh, come on over here and do this and da-da-da. And you can be as vulgar and as graphic as you want. But if that's your mother or your sister or your, like, all of a sudden, this is a different situation. Okay. It's the exact same situation. You just swap the nouns. Right. And all of a sudden, this behavior is unacceptable, right? So where can you do that in your life? Just slow down and think. Are there other situations where this reality would play out exactly the same way? And if it's not, then you need to change it.
So you mentioned you've done a lot of podcasts. The book has been out now for a couple of weeks, and you're doing a tour, and it launched at the Barnes & Noble in New York. Woot, woot. That's pretty amazing. What kind of reaction are you getting, and what has surprised you, if anything?
I have been so pleasantly, beautifully surprised. First, I've always thought of myself as an encouraging person. I really did.
You are.
I have been brought to shame. I've been brought low. The way that people have taken time out to just write me a note and say, I read this section of the book and it transformed me. Or I just want to thank you so much for writing this book. Or I've never read a book that made things so clear and so simple, like beautiful, beautiful observations that are lovely. Everybody loves a compliment, but I really have been struck by people taking the time out. I think in a technology driven, age where everything is about faster, more efficient. It's so beautiful to just take a minute to encourage someone and to uplift someone, especially when that someone is a stranger, right? Like I just think it's been beautiful. It's been beautiful. And I love that people are like, I'm taking this to my office. I'm sharing this with my church group. I sent this out to the whole PTO because I really want them to understand these concepts as we're making decisions. Like, that's why I wrote the book. Like, I want to empower people. I think there's a lot of, diminishment in this space. I think people feel very small. They feel very helpless. They feel like what could I possibly do? These problems are so big. These challenges are so old. What could I possibly do? And so one of the big intentions of the book has been to shrink the problem. I literally do not need you to be an expert in reparations or geopolitical, negotiations. I need you to do the 5 feet around you, right? The 5 feet around you. Do you care about the people in your life? I was sitting with a group of women, affluent women, and we were literally talking about the book. And they were saying how, it's really encouraged me. It's really made me want to do more and be more helpful. And one woman in the group literally calls out another woman in the group and said, you don't know if your housekeeper has children. You have had a housekeeper for 10 years. You don't know if she has children. Does she need help with them getting into college? Does she need help with it? You've never asked. Like, we all want to be experts in way down the road, right? But what are you doing in the 5 feet around you to be helpful, to be encouraging, to create space, to make room? What are you actually doing? We have outsourced our kindness, outsourced our citizenship, almost like it's somebody else's job to sweep around our porch. This is where we live. So I really wanted to encourage people to take ownership. I think we are overrun with renters. We need some more owners.
You do a whole chapter on that. And that was one of the notes that I wrote down because I wanted you to expand upon that. Just the whole concept of owners versus renters and how you go through life. So go for it.
Yeah, I think that there are two kinds of Americans. I'm going to make this a very specifically kind of country example. Mm-hmm. There's people who move through the world like owners and people who move like renters. Owners are committed to the long-term viability of an asset. They fix the foundation. They fix the plumbing or the electrical panels, all the stuff, the unsexy stuff that nobody sees. Mm-hmm. They fix all the things. Why?
They own it and they have a stake in it.
They have a stake in it and what it's like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 40 years from now, right? They want to be able to leave this asset to their children, their grandchildren. They want it to retain its value. Mm-hmm. Renters use peel and stick tile. They're here for temporary extraction, of value from a space. And no shade to renters. There's a lot, there's nothing wrong with being a renter. But when it comes to the ownership of our country, we need a few more owners. We need some people who are committed to this experiment thriving. And I think what we've shifted to is we have an extraordinary number of extractors. People who just want to extract temporary value. They don't have any problem going into a little town and taking over the plant or the factory, extracting all the value, saddling the company with a whole bunch of debt. Then the plant closes in 2 years and 2,000 jobs are gone and that little town dies. Those are extractors, right? Mm-hmm. And it's really important to understand that extraction is legal, right? It's legal. But you don't get to be an extractor and a hero like that. You can't get to be both. You're going to have to choose which one you're going to be. So we have this class of people, this group of people that not only have they given up or surrendered their responsibility of planting trees for the next generation. They are totally fine plucking up trees that somebody else planted as long as they enrich themselves. Exactly. Right? I think if we had more owners, there's a whole set of conversations we wouldn't have anymore, Linda. We just wouldn't have them anymore. We wouldn't argue about giving lunch to school children. We just wouldn't argue that we need hospitals in rural areas. Right? Like there's just a whole list of topics we wouldn't argue about anymore because we understand this is our house. We need to sweep around the porch. We need to fix the things and hang this is our inheritance. Right. And we need to move like heirs instead of spectators or we're passing through, which is what I see very often.
Right. Right. One of the quotes in the book that I really love while we're talking about America, because you gave a very specific country specific kind of commentary there. You said, too many have refused to imagine that we can love our country while working optimistically to repair it. Instead, some have been enlisted as keepers of its myths. That's it. In a nutshell, that's it. I mean, you know, I love this country as much as people who wrap themselves in the flag and, you know, stand on top of whatever and say what they're going to say. I love my country as much as the next person, but I also understand that it is not perfect, that we can do better, and that it's okay for us to call out the problems and then try to solve them so that we can be better. But we are living in this age right now where even acknowledging that there is a problem is divisive. I mean, it's you, of course, you see this because you work in the quote unquote DEI space. Okay. And DEI all of a sudden has become a dirty word.
Oh, it's not all of a sudden. It's intentional. It's intentional, right? Like there's value in bastardizing language. Whatever you do, whatever you name it. People always say we need to call it something else. It doesn't matter what you call it. You know, there's a small group of people who are committed to the status quo because the status quo works for them. That's how it's always been. People forget, that when you think, look at even Martin Luther King Jr. When he died, he had a 67% disapproval rating. He got a Nobel Peace Prize for working on America. He didn't get it from America, right? But now we talk about him like he's an incredible hero and everybody loves him. And the truth of the matter is that when people who love America step up to say, this is the way we can grow. These are the ways we can improve. These are the ways that we can be better. That should be embraced. But the people that are winning, you know, the people who say they're smart because they don't pay their taxes. Can you imagine somebody saying, I'm smart because I benefit from this country. I've made millions or billions of dollars from this country, but I don't want to pay my fair share. The teacher, the nurse, the firefighter, they should pay their fair share. But even though I've been blessed immeasurably, I don't feel any responsibility to contributing to the greatness of the country. That's kind of where we've shifted to, right? Like, and the bottom line is no one else is coming. No one else is coming. We're going to have exactly the country that we allow, exactly the country that we create. We are co-creating our future right now. I think about John Kennedy when he says, you know, we are going to go to the moon. We're going to be the first country, the moon. The people at NASA must have been like, oh, Lord, like they didn't have any idea how to do it. We used to aspire to things, right? And it took 7 years. What if they had given up at year 2, at year 3, at year 5, at year 6? Like you have to put in the time and to have the investment. And we need to be very careful. Linda, I know you know this better than most. The power of messaging, right? There is a very small contingent of our country that is deeply committed to our division, to us misunderstanding each other. They monetize outrage and they're rage farming us so profoundly that we don't trust each other. We don't know our neighbors. We're quick to jump to the worst possible, belief system around every situation that happens without even asking any questions. And it's because there are people who get paid the more angry we are, right? And so we have to resist that conditioning. We're going to have to become more digitally literate and understand that we are being manipulated into this division. I don't think we're more divided than we've ever been before. I think there's a couple people who put millions of dollars behind us feeling like we are. The people that I talk to, the people that I interact with are deeply desirous of this getting better. They want to think about it. They want to talk it through. They want to learn best practices. But the bottom line is, I don't have $10 million to turbocharge my message, but there are bad actors that do. So we have to really resist that. We have to reject that. I had a young person come up to me. Actually, I've had several people say this to me, but this one young person stood out to me. He came up to me at an event, and he was saying, I had to curse my grandmother out at Thanksgiving dinner. I told her I'm not even going to talk to her anymore because she is a bigot. I said, and I stopped him and I said, do you think I want you to curse your grandmother out? Do you think that's a win? Like, that's not the win. I want you to stay in relationship with your grandmother and talk it through and come to a better level of understanding. Please do not think it's a victory because you are torn asunder. That's not my goal, and it shouldn't be your goal, right? So this idea of can we disagree without destruction? Is that possible? I would like to believe it is, but there's some things we're just going to have to let go in order to be able to do that.
And you provide a lot of those tools. I mean, that's what the book is all about. And then toward the end, you give some real concrete steps that people can take, that companies and leaders can take. You even touched on it. You just mentioned it a moment ago, but you also touch on in the book how we need to become more, as you just said, digitally literate, how we need to become more, we need to be able to fact check what we, don't believe everything you see and read. There are places where you can go to fact check. We have to commit to becoming more educated as a citizenry, so that we truly understand the messaging that is being fed to us. And then we have to do our own due diligence and decide what we believe to be true based on our understanding of the connectedness of humanity.
Yes. And I'll add something very specific to that is the biggest call to action that I hope every single person listening to this will enact. We have to let go of the practice of humiliation. We have to. We are addicted to it. And I say we. I didn't say you. I said we. We love, honey. We love when they go to a Trump rally and they find the most ridiculously dressed person and they stick a microphone in their face and they ask them some questions to trip them up and they come across looking like an idiot. Or they go to a college campus and they find a liberal girl with the bright pink hair and the nose ring and they ask her something and she doesn't know what she's talking about and she's humiliated. I have never, ever, ever seen anyone come to a different position because they were humiliated. I've just never seen it. And I have a rule. If you say you love America, you're going to have to try to love Americans. You're going to have to try to get along with people that are different than you. And I think perpetually telling them that they're small, they're dumb, they're voting against their own best interest. And we just have to stop. Let's talk about and discuss ideas, not people. Let's talk about the ideas. What are best practices? How do we move forward? It is so common now to demonize anyone that disagrees with you that how are you possibly going to come to any kind of consensus? Once you've made me a monster, what do we have to talk about? Yeah. Nothing. So this practice, and we're going into an election year and it's going to be tempting. But what if you just don't watch it? What if you just don't forward it? What if you just don't like it? When you see somebody being humiliated, political disagreement is not a source of entertainment. This is how we run our country. This is how we make our decisions. Democracy is important, right? And we've reduced it to caricature and to humiliating jokes. So if we could just decide as a community that we were going to purge humiliation from our discourse and really focus on the practices that we want to see happen, I just think that would be a big, huge step. This book is something that I know you've been working on for a long time, that you've wanted to do it for a while. And I love that it's coming out right now. I don't know if you planned it that way or if it just, if it's the universe doing its thing. Giving it to us at a moment in time when we truly need it. Everything that you just said obviously speaks deeply to my heart, and that's at the core of all of the work that I'm doing right now. And
just trying to help people, like you said, understand that you can disagree without demonizing the other person. We've got to get back to the ideas and listening to what someone has to say and understanding what their perspective is and why they came to that point of view, that the way that they did, and really listening to understand and being curious, as opposed to just assuming that you know where this person is coming from and why they are presenting themselves in this way. I just think this is such important work. What do you hope will come of this book in terms of its place in the public discourse? What's your pie in the sky? I mean, you've told us a little bit, but what's your pie in the sky? What would you really love to see happen?
I would love to change the discourse. I would love to establish a higher goal. I think very often, and I'm sure you've seen this in your life, it's not really barriers or hurdles that keep us from accomplishing our heart's desire. It's the lesser goal. It's the ease of a lesser goal. I mean, I want to do this, but this is easier. I'll just go do that.
Right.
And I think
the path to get there is easier.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know, I think that we are really challenged around the way we've reduced this conversation of DEI, right? Diverse from who? Equal to who? Included by who? Like who? What are we talking about, right? We still have one group at the middle and everybody is scratching and clawing trying to get to the middle. What if there's no middle? What if there's absolutely no middle? What if there is no one who is genetically or foundationally superior to anyone else? Mm-hmm. And we really have a space where any giftedness has the capacity to contribute to the story of America. What would that look like, right? Yeah. I have a recurring nightmare that the cure for cancer has already been born. It was just born in the wrong neighborhood. Mm. So we don't have it. Mm-hmm. We can't afford to waste genius. And that's literally what we're doing. That's literally what we're doing because we are categorizing people and limiting people, warehousing people in prisons, creating a glass ceiling where women only go so far in an organization. The women in my life are so super bad that I'm like, why aren't they running the company? Why aren't they in charge? Because they're so amazing. Like we are only cheating ourselves. And here we are. We have this incredible threat in AI. I'm as optimistic as a person can be, but AI is going to transform our society and we are not ready. We cannot agree on what kind of chips you should eat or, is this person good? Like we can't agree on anything. How are we going to tackle the displacement of millions of workers in our country? Millions. Any skill set that can be done by AI in the next 5 years will be replaced. Where are these people going to work? We're watching homelessness explode in our major cities because we don't have a strategy for tackling these very real, very profound problems. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse unless we do some kind of intervention. The intervention can't be step over them, move them to a part of town that we don't see them. Like that can't be our strategy. We need to take, again, there's that word, ownership for the experience that we want to have in our country. I was in San Francisco recently and was brought in to speak at an event. And they put me up in a fancy hotel, honey. It was fancy. And my daughter was with me. And we start walking out the door and the staff stops us. Wait, where are you going? Where you go? They were afraid for us to go down the street to walk to a restaurant by ourselves because they didn't think it was safe. Mm-hmm. We're walking across the street and we're stepping over human feces in the street. It doesn't matter how expensive your hotel room or how expensive your penthouse is. If when you step out your door, it's chaos. It's mayhem. It doesn't matter. So we all benefit from supporting each other and helping each other and building a place that we all want to live in. It feels so basic, but if we don't tackle this, and I keep using the word optimism. I remind people all throughout the book that optimism is the key ingredient. The only people who change the world are the ones who think they can. If you just throw up your hands and I'm just going to live my life, honey. I'm just going to hoard opportunity for my kids as much as I can. And I'm going to get behind a gate and I'm just going to try to make it. If that's the approach we take, we'll get exactly the country that we deserve. But if we decide we're going to, I think a lot about the writing of the Declaration of Independence, the forming of the country, all the times that we've had amendments, how they shut the doors and they fought, honey. They fought. It was knock down, drag out. Are we going to do it this way? Are we going to do it that way? But they were able to fight, but come out on the other side with a solution, a compromise, some way forward. We are completely stuck. This Congress is the least productive Congress in American history. With the exception of one. The only one is the one during the Depression. They only met 5 times because of the Depression. That's where we are. We're completely immobilized. You cannot convince me that there is nothing we can agree on, right? There are some hot button topics that we can debate that we don't have consensus on. But I have to believe there are thousands of things we do agree on. We are allowing the differences in these spaces to cannibalize all of the work that we need to be doing. And so I guess what I want the impact of the book to be is to encourage people to find their personal work, to just find your work, whatever that is, and to be wholly and completely dissatisfied with the status quo, to see that it is your responsibility to do something. And it's going to be different for every single person, what they have the capacity to do, whether they're the CEO of a company or the head of the PTO. Really, but they all have the capacity
within the 5 feet around them.
Within the 5 feet around them. If you just work, you know that you only recruit from certain schools. You know that you give preference to new hires if they have a sexy Google internship. You know how you get a sexy Google internship? Your mom has a friend that works at Google. Mm-hmm. Should that give you an advantage in hiring? I don't think so. Right? So we have these echoes in our society that we need to really ferret out, things that don't matter at all. They're not indicators of possibility and potential. And, they're just not. So let's set those aside and do the very necessary work. In the book, I really talk about my personal historical hero, my personal muse, and that's Harriet Tubman. And when I think of, I could cry just even talking about it. Here is this woman in the 1800s, enslaved. She couldn't read. She couldn't write. She didn't have a map, didn't have a horse, had never been more than a mile from the plantation. She was brutalized as a child and she had a very severe seizure disorder. She didn't know anybody in the North. And she ran by herself to freedom. By herself. That would have been a miracle in and of itself. But it doesn't stop there. She turns around and she goes back.
She goes back.
Linda, I don't know, girl. I don't know. I don't know if I would have done it. She goes back and she doesn't go back once. Once she goes back, she gets 3 people. The next time she gets 5 people. The next time a few people at a time over the course of years. And the total, it's different historical accounts, have different numbers, but 70 is the kind of generally accepted number. Think about saving 70 people's lives, 3 and 5 and 4 at a time. We don't have that kind of tenacity. We don't have that kind of commitment, that kind of patience, that kind of consistency, right? And so I have to ask myself, and I want your listeners to ask themselves, do you have less than Harriet Tubman? Do you have less resources, less education, less information, less access to help? Like, no, we all have more. How can we possibly do less when we have more? Who has talked us out of our power, out of our genius, out of our capabilities? So what I want for this book is for people to remember who they are, remember what they're capable of, remember what they can make happen, and go about the very urgent work of doing it.
Oh, you give me chills. You give me chills. I could listen to you speak all day. And people, please reach out to Denise if you need a keynote speaker, because clearly you see that this woman is magic. Last question is, because I said I would give you an opportunity to talk about the title, Indivisible, which I think would be a great way to kind of wrap up this conversation and how you arrived at it.
Yeah, the journey of writing a book is always really interesting because it goes through all of these iterations. And when I first conceived of the book, I wanted it to be a list of things we're getting wrong or things that are getting in the way of us coming together. And the more I sat with it, I'm like, that's the same approach. That's finger wagging. It's not aspirational. People don't trade their misery for your misery. They want to trade up. Everybody wants to trade up. And I was like, I just really gave a lot of thought to what is the goal here? What is it that we want? We want to be powerful. We want to be indestructible. We want to be a strong country or whatever we're doing. And I've always loved the word indivisible, right? It's because I've never heard it any other place but the Pledge of Allegiance. And I just thought like, it's so interesting to have a word that we all know, we've all said, but we don't define and we don't practice. We all said it, but we never really think of like, what does this actually mean? And so I spent some time with it. And the best example of being indivisible that I could come up with is the human body, right? The heart and the lungs don't argue about which is more important. Mm-hmm. They just don't. If you laid out your intestines, I don't know why you would want to do this, but if you laid out your intestines, they'd be between like 15, 17 feet long. That doesn't make them more important than the tiny little pituitary gland that controls all of your hormones. Like, right? They're both important. Your legs are the strongest muscle group in your body, and they can take you anywhere you want to go. But you're going exactly nowhere if the tiny little bones in your ear don't manage your balance, right? You need it all. It's not about size. It's not about position. It's not about any of those things. You need every part to contribute its giftedness optimally. I don't want a half working pituitary gland. I don't want a 30% utilized liver. I want all of the parts to be working optimally together. That's how you can have a body that can have a baby, that can climb a mountain, that can go to the moon, right? You want it optimally working. We have settled for suboptimal conditioning of literally 50% of our population, maybe even more than that, where we don't allow them to contribute at the fullest, most fulfilling ways. And I think that's unacceptable. I want all the gifts. I want all of the genius. Do you have an idea? I want to hear it. I want to make sure that we are doing the hard things. We are a people that can do hard things. We sent somebody to the moon in a tin can with computers not as sophisticated as the phones we have in our pocket today. We can do really incredible things. And I really believe it's all about the choice. So I hope that people kind of start using this word. I want to get a t-shirt with the word indivisible on it. Like, this is our new target, our true north. Because I think people need an aspirational goal, and I hope they elect to choose this as their goal.
Well, You have laid it out so beautifully. I cannot recommend this book highly enough. Again, Indivisible. Go to your local bookstore. Go anywhere you'd like to buy your books. It's also on Audible, right? Yes. So just do yourself a favor and gift yourself this book, gift your friends this book. It will help us get through this really, really challenging time in our history. Denise, I'm so honored to call you a friend, and it just warms my heart to see you soar the way that you are, and to see all the good work that you've done through the years really get this recognition on a broader, wider scale, because we need your message, we need your gift, and thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your space. I fully believe there's no greater gift than the gift of your attention. Mm-hmm. And so when people invite me into their spaces, the spaces that they've cultivated, I'm just always blown away. So thank you, my friend, for the work that you do and for caring about this, because that's really where we are. We need folks to care. And if we care, us, the big group of us that's in the middle, if we care, we can turn this thing around.
We got work to do, girl. We're going to do it. Thank you, Denise.
Thanks.
Denise's optimism is positively infectious. I hope that it prompts you to not only read the book, but to also put into practice the tips and the tools that she provides to better connect us as humans. I'm so appreciative that she wrote the book and that she took time to share her insights with all of us. Thank you for being a part of the Our Voices Matter community. You know what to do. Subscribe, like, share, pass it on, and then join us again next time. Thanks so much, everybody. See you then.